There's a function on the Husqvarna Viking Designer Brilliance 80 called Design Positioning. This is probably something people ask me the most about, but as soon as you can get into using it, it makes the most sense. This is also where you can find the center of a design, check where it's going to stitch, and then also if you've hooped your project crooked, meaning you've drawn a line on your fabric or your hoop and you didn't get it in there just right and it's a little angled, I'm going to show you how you can perfectly position a design on an angle. So honestly, hoop up your fabric, doesn't matter where it is. If it's got lines or something that you'll need to position a design to, it is going to work. And down to the 1/10 of a millimeter for positioning. So this is probably the one machine I have been able to fine-tune positioning like no other machine. So Vikings and Fofs, you've got this made, and I want to show you the steps that you're going to use. I'm going to show you this in two different projects. So the first thing I'm going to show you is I have hooped up a piece of stabilizer, and I'm going to pretend I'm putting a monogram in the corner of a napkin. So I'm also going to show you how we baste in the hoop. So this is not going to get hooped, it's going to get positioned where I want. So just to show you from start how I would go about doing this, I said a monogram, so let's just go ahead and find a calligraphy looking monogram. I'm going to do an S for Sarah. And at this point, I just need to tell the machine what hoop I'll be using. I've got the 120 by 120 hoop, so that will do that. And I'm going to just put it in the center, and not that it matters where it is on the screen, it's just that easy. Now, I will probably advise that you do find like a horizontal and vertical part to this. For today, I'm going to just take and find, today we're just going to do a dot, okay? So there's the dot that we'll use for centering. So here is what I'm going to go with. Okay, so I don't put it in yet. We'll go ahead and touch go. And I'm going to turn off a few features I added on earlier and move that embroidery arm over. We'll attach the hoop once it's been asked. I've also given this stabilizer a little 505 spray. So right now it's very sticky, like a piece, like a big Post-it note. So as soon as I lay my fabric down into position, I'll be able to just push it down and it'll stick. Awesome. All right. So design positioning is only found on the embroidery screen. So I had to touch go, attach the hoop, do all that, and then is where I can see and use the yellow flower with the 4 arrows. So as I touch it, this is design positioning. Again, when you get to using this, you'll wonder why you don't use it more. Okay, so there's a place right down here. There's 4 steps that we're going to use when we hoop something crooked. But for just regular stitching like today, I'm going to open up the toolbox. So this is where you can use the little 4 corners to check like the 4 places or how big this letter actually is, just to get a visual, make sure you have everything positioned right. But I want to point out that there's a plus on the screen right now. That plus is not the center of the design. It's the first stitch of the design. So we're not going to line up this needle to this point with the position it's sitting in now. We need to see the center of the design. So touch the plus. There, see, now that makes sense. The hoop has moved into the position, and instead of me trying to put this in and moving the design to the dot, why don't we just put the dot underneath the needle? So I'm going to just slide that in, and if I want, I could even rotate my needle down and stab the dot. If I had a vertical and horizontal line, I would be making sure, and I kind of do with this little corner, so I can just pull that into position. There's a little notch at the lower part of your hoop that can give you a little centering point. And when you're happy, push that down, bring the needle up just a little bit. And now let's take a look. Where is the corners of this design? How big is it? Oh yeah, that's a perfect size for, say, a napkin corner. Why not? So it doesn't matter where you stop. Really, you didn't move the design at all when we got to this point. Let me say we did have to move the design. Maybe our dot was over here, we've hooped it up. What we would do is pick the center position and then just move the whole design. I mean, you're moving the design to where you want it to be. That needle is that plus. So if you know you need to stitch over here, just move it over there. I'm going to put this kind of back to the center. So I'm going to change these numbers back to, can I change them back? Oh, we'll just bring it back in. So sometimes what I'll do is move it quickly on screen and then use the little arrows to bring it fine-tune. And I can look now and get it back to 0, 0. I said it was 1/10 of a millimeter. You got to dial these in really nice and precise. All right, so let's go ahead and touch OK, and we're ready to stitch. Now, one thing that you can do is actually do what's called a basting in the hoop feature. So when you're here at this screen, you can add it, and it's right underneath your color block list. It's a little picture with the flower with the dotted square around it. When you pick it, it will bring up two options, based around the design, which is what we want, or based around the hoop. Now, based around the hoop would probably not do me any good because I'm only going to catch like this part here and this part here. But based around the design would be appropriate. So you do have that option, and touch OK. When you do get that, you get the dotted box around the design, and that's what it's going to stitch first. After the basting box has been stitched, then it will go ahead and start into the rest of the design. After the basting box has been stitched, just go ahead and start your design. Ah, perfect. So to remove the basting stitches, I usually work from the back side because that's going to be easy to just take a seam ripper or my curved scissors and snip those threads from away from the back of the stabilizer. Easiest to do it on the back versus the front. You're guaranteed not to accidentally clip your fabric. So next up, let me show you how to truly hoop crooked. I've hooped some fabric, stabilizer, and drawn a crooked line. I've put my name in here, and I'm going to show you how I can perfectly match this to this line. So no matter where you are within a design, if you've already got a design stitched and you're aligning a second one to touch at a certain point, you can do that with this type of positioning. It really is going to take you a couple times to try this out. Follow the directions that I'm going to show you, and this will make sense after you try it a couple times. So just like anything, you're going to have to get in there and give it a try. So just select your design, tell it what hoop you're using, and get over to the embroidery side. So design positioning, once again, is that little yellow flower with the 4 arrows. Okay, so since this is now fabric that is hooped, we will truly need to be aligning different areas of the design to what you want it to align with. So I mentioned that earlier there was 4 different steps here. So there is a 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 of the pictures have pictures of a flower, and 2 of the pictures have pictures of the hoop. So when I'm doing step 1 will say move the blue cursor to a point of your design you want to match. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, and I'm going to go ahead and touch the zoom box, and I'm going to touch the magnifying glass with the plus in it, and it goes right to where the blue plus is. So I want to actually see this plus be right at the bottom of the S, and probably, actually it's probably about the same point even right there. So again, you can get it to move right to you where you want it. So you pick a place on the design you want to use for alignment. Since this is going to go on the line, that's why I picked something at the lower part towards the beginning of the design. Okay, so that's part 1. Part 2 is I need to look at the hoop. I'm going to zoom out just so you can see what's going on. All right, so when we take a look now, the directions say step 2, move the design to align the locked point. So now that it's red, it's locked with the desired position on the fabric. So when it shows you a hoop, your eyes are going to be on the hoop, not over here. It doesn't matter where this is. So I'm going to just visually bring my design down. My needle is moving. So my needle is that red plus. That's why you get to pick which point you want to use. And I'll just move it up just a little bit. I am getting to the line. Okay, now, I mean, I'm being real particular. Remember, this will move 1/10 of a millimeter for each time you touch that arrow. So that stitch is locked on that point. You get to pick where you want to lock it. Okay, let's do, so most of the time, if you don't have to like twist the design, you just need to move it into an area or make sure it's not stitching over a certain thing. You're only going to use steps 1 and 2 and then touch OK. But today I want to show you what 3 and 4 actually do, because now we're going to take the word and bring it even with this line. And this is so much easier than trying to like figure out a rotation for this, because how in the world would you know if this degree was the right degree or was it this one? Rotation in 23 degrees versus 28 degrees. It's just, it's not easy. This is so much easier. So let's go step 3. Step 3, our new step says move the blue cursor, so you get a second cursor, to another part of the design you want to match. So again, it's a picture of the flower, so we look at the design, we look at the screen. So I'm over here, and I'm going to be looking for, how about the last kind of lowest stitch of the last letter? Let's zoom in, see where we are. We're getting real close. Actually, wow. All right, so that's pretty darn close. All right, maybe a little left, maybe a little right. You decide. Actually, it didn't matter. All right. So now, step 4 actually says, verify the design is positioned at desired, rotate as needed, check needle on fabric. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so you can see this twist. There we go, the whole hoop. All right, so this is my rotation point, the first point, and as I bring this up, my needle is coming. So when that needle reaches the line on my fabric, and can use the little arrows. Sometimes you have to figure out which one goes up and which one goes down. All right. And then I can see that that is, actually, you know what? I'm going to get it exact because I'm going to stitch it for you and show you that you can nail this perfectly. Okay. So at this point, it's, I mean, you can check the design, but that's going to look weird because it's like all sideways. All you need to do at this point, if you're happy with where it's going to stitch, touch OK, and I will show you the results after we stitch it out. So our embroidery is finished, and our name is exactly on the line that we asked it to stitch on. It doesn't get any more perfect than that. So try out design positioning, see how it can help you be exactly where you want your embroidery to be placed.